Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. We'll get started. A little bit of housekeeping before I introduce the guests. I'm James. I'm on the Hamilton Soccer Board, so I'll be helping to moderate this evening. I'll ask everyone, it looks like everyone's already muted themselves, but stay muted while you can through the call. What we're going to do for questions is the way the chat is set up. If you text anything through, it'll come directly to me versus the group. And what I'll do is if you've got a question, just message me. I'll call on you and you can ask our guests whatever it is regarding to soccer and scholarships and anything involved with their careers, of course. Now, the meeting's being recorded, so you can watch this back as you need to on YouTube. And with all that, let's get started. So, welcoming in our guests, both Hamilton locals, made their way over multiple borders to continue playing soccer at the highest level. Andrea Petrina began with Saltfleet before making plays with Team Ontario and competing at nationals. That set the stage for her joining Perdue University, playing 70 games with the Boilermakers, helping to lead the team to its first 10-win season in a decade. After university, Andrea went on to play professionally in the Czech Republic before returning to Hamilton. And Alex Peterman also began with Saltfleet before moving over to play in Burlington. Her play there led to a commitment with Northwestern State in Louisiana for 2 years, and then transferring north to the University of Alabama to finish her collegiate career. Alex has continued to volunteer with Mount Hamilton. Andrea is continuing to coach with Hamilton United, both very engaged with the soccer community locally. Thank you both for joining. Really, really appreciate you both making the time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so obviously quite, I think, a lot to cover, and I've got a good list of questions here. I'm hoping that people can message through questions and we can take them as they come. I think the best way to go about things is just to kind of start at the beginning. You both started at Saltfleet. Can you tell me about your relationship with soccer early on and what that kind of looked like when you were just getting into things?
Andrea, you can go first.
Sure. Yeah, so I started playing at Saltfleet around when I was around 4 or 5 years old. I come from a very athletic family from background with my dad, my brother, and my sister. We all did actually play at Saltfleet with my brother and sister and a handful of my cousins as well. So we started there playing house league, and as the years passed, I moved up to rep teams, and I just started noticing I loved playing soccer, and it was something that I always wanted to make a dream out of and follow it. After I played for a few years at Saltfleet, around like 14 or 15, I did move over to the Burlington club. That was just kind of the best option for me, kind of excelling as a player too, and just, showcasing myself and my talents further than just club and playing rep, which led me into the collegiate level, showcasing in tournaments in the States every weekend, and then eventually playing in the States. And then the next step to there, playing in Europe as well. So yeah, Saltfleet was, a very good starting point for me. I met a lot of people, coaches, and developed a lot of relationships through the years. And yeah, I was able to excel through there.
Lovely. And you, Alex?
We probably had very similar experiences, actually. I started playing at Saltfleet probably the time I was 3 or 4. Same with my brothers, although one played for Mount Hamilton after. Oh no. At around age 14, 15, I also transferred to the Burlington Youth Soccer Club. Again, just the better option for, I think, girls soccer generally at that time. Other than that, though, I met great people. I had great coaches, but my focus, I don't even think I thought about my experience at the time. I was just having a good time playing soccer. I wanted to run. I wanted to score goals. After Burlington, I made a commitment to Northwestern State, as you said, and I received a scholarship to go down there and play. Had a great experience, and then followed my coach, actually, who originally recruited me, to the University of Alabama in Huntsville. Yeah, that's about it. That's my career.
Well, and it's interesting you both moved over to Burlington, talking about the best level or best opportunities there. Did a lot of your friends or teammates also move over as well? And did that make the decision easier or harder? Or is it just, well, this is just the next step for me and I got to go?
For me, not a lot of my teammates. I had a few friends who were a bit older than me who had jumped to the Burlington youth soccer club at that time, and they just said they had a really good experience. I actually left all my teammates. None of them followed me. So it was just me that went over, and it worked out for me. I'm sure it was different for other people as well.
Yeah, I agree. Mine was, I kind of just made the decision on my own to kind of move to a different club. And actually a lot of my lifelong friends now are actually from Burlington, and my best friend actually went to Purdue with me from Burlington. So that was pretty good experience to, you know, experience the club type with her and then move on to college with her too. So I guess for me, it was kind of that buddy system of, you know, having someone to lean on that kind of was going through that same transition for me as well.
Which is awesome. And I'm sure at that age too, you know, you're able to identify what is competitive and what isn't for you, and where you need to take those next steps, and knowing that even if, you know, you're making new friends at these other teams, it's still going to work out for you. When did you have any sort of end goal in mind, or when did you feel like you're like, oh yeah, playing in college is the right decision for me? Was that something that happened early on, or was it just kind of you started thinking, oh, university's coming up and now I'm starting to think about it?
I think I knew from the time I was 5 or 6 that I wanted to go to the States and play sports. My mom actually played a sport at Penn State. So that was like my dream ever since I was a little girl, to leave and play and get an experience, play at that next level. So I kind of always knew. It didn't just happen for me around high school or anything. It was always in my plans.
Yeah, I agree too. And also that family impact too. You know, I'm the youngest of 3, and I'm like, oh, I want to follow in the footsteps of my dad and my brother, obviously, and stuff like that. And also it's just like for the fun of the game too. I think from the experiences that I had playing at regionals and provincials and then training with the NTC program back when I was in high school, that's when I was kind of like, got to buckle down and, you know, look for my next steps in life and see what I want to make a future out of it. So I think early on, definitely, it was a plan to play in the States and, if not, further my career for sure.
And obviously, no disrespect to any colleges or universities up here, but was there any ever consideration of let's play for MAC, or even, you know what, I'm tired of seeing my family going to go to BC. Like, was there any interest in staying within the country and playing?
For sure. For me, like, I'm a homebody, so, you know, I love being close to home too. I was looking at McGill at one point, but just, you know, the opportunity rose a little bit better for me in the States at that point.
I think for me, I did not want to stay in Canada personally, but that's just how I was raised. So I took off the second I could.
Fair enough. And then I've also heard that trying to get a scholarship in the States, let alone just being seen at some of these scouting opportunities, is very much like getting a job itself. Would you two say that's true? And maybe talk about some of those obligations and hardships of just actually, you know, getting footage out there and getting in front of coaches. What was that like?
For sure. I think that it is definitely a process. For me personally, I was lucky enough to be on a club team that we showcased almost every weekend. So we were on the road almost every weekend or every second weekend, where there was high volumes of scouts and coaches at our tournaments. So that was where they were able to scout me, and I was able to be in contact with them, or my parents were, when at the time, if it's unofficial, to speak to them. For me, I didn't really necessarily send out, you know, those scouting videos or reach out to coaches myself. I was just, you know, in the right tournaments and that sight of eye for getting scouted that way. But it is a process. I think at the beginning going into it, you have to commit and say, this is something like I want to do and make a life out of. And it's something that you have to commit your time, you know, make sacrifices in your life with, you know, your social life and, you know, school too, and just kind of go for it. So I think for me, it was kind of a process in, you know, going to those tournaments, meeting with coaches, kind of going on unofficial visits and stuff like that. That's the process of, you know, kind of narrowing it down of where you want to go and pick the best place, obviously, for you.
I think I remember when I was playing for Burlington at the time that I switched clubs, they had stopped participating in so many showcase tournaments. So I actually played for another team that strictly just did showcase tournaments. And I think, just like Andrea said, that was a critical piece, is you got an opportunity to talk to coaches after games, and you just played all day, you played all weekend. And that was the most exposure, the best exposure you're going to get. I did also reach out and send resumes and stuff like that. I don't think I remember sending any footage or video, but again, unofficial visits as well, just being able to, many phone calls from coaches, just talking. And I remember being a nervous wreck.
Which is totally understandable, because it's your probably the first major decision, one that's going to be 4 or 5 years of your life. And, you know, you're at an age where you're first separating from your family. So yeah, obviously a lot, but it sounds like from both of your experiences, perhaps speaking to the younger individuals on the call today, that it wasn't so much a, well, I can just get away with going to showcases. It's you do have to go up and approach coaches and make sure that they remember you, not just on the field, but that, you know, you're representing yourself in a certain way.
I think one thing I do want to say about that is that I noticed that our rep programs are geared more towards exposure here, whereas in the States, more high school teams, actually, that's where you get seen. And I hope one day our high school programs are able to be at the same kind of level, because if you're not on teams that are participating in these tournaments, and there's good athletes out there who just don't get the exposure. So I think that's important too, that hopefully young teams, high school teams, I don't know, that there's a connection there with coaches at some point with schools that are looking to recruit players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. Did you find any of your either coaches through Burlington or through high school that were able to kind of draw on connections from past students or alumni to help foster any of those relationships?
Not really. I didn't definitely not my high school coaches. Not really my rep coaches either.
I'd say my rep coach, he did have a very good relationship with the club itself, and also with coaches that he knew abroad and within the United States as well. He was also like a referee too. So he was very involved with our program at the time. So anytime that a coach was reaching out, the coaches would reach out to him first, and then he would see if it was okay with us. So he did a lot of helping with that. He also helped prep us to go into the States too, to do ACTs and SATs too. So we did that together as my club back in Burlington when we were trying to get into school and stuff. So he did get himself very much involved with kind of building our future and with university.
That's brilliant. Now, of course, there's I'm sure quite a lot of coaches that would come back and see if there's openings and what makes the most sense. When it came down to your own criteria of choosing a school, because obviously you're not just athletes, you're student athletes, what were you picking and helping to figure out what school was going to be best for you based on program and team and what you want to achieve over that 4 years? I'm asking all the hard questions.
Anyone?
Oh, no, that's fine. For me, to narrow it down, basically, I did make sure I was going on a lot of unofficial visits and kind of getting a feel of campus too. You don't want to be on a campus where you feel like a stranger. And for me, it was, I want to feel comfortable and I want to feel like almost at home. A big thing for me with when I went on to my unofficial visit at Perdue, meeting with staff, players, and like getting a view of the campus immediately, I just got this feeling of like, this is it, and I feel home here. And just the relationship that I was able to connect with my coach that did scout me back then. I just had that really good connection with him and all my assistant coaches as well, and girls on the team too. That's a big thing when you do go on unofficial visits and official visits, is when you are partnered with somebody from the team and they are giving you that exposure to campus and stuff. It's really that kind of sells you. And I think for me, it's like that feeling of being home. My program, I did switch my program, so it wasn't that big of a change for me where I was like kind of, doing like pre-med or anything like that. I did study communications at first, and then I specialized in HR. So that was to also the education at Purdue. I made sure I really did my research, and I think that's kind of a good advice I can give to future potential collegiate athletes and student athletes, is do your research and do something that fits you and makes you happy there. So yeah, that was a big thing for me. It's like kind of feeling that homey feeling and comfort.
Which is really good advice. Was that the same for you as well, Alex?
Yeah, generally, definitely my relationship with my coach was, I mean, that's why I transferred from the first school anyways, is because I had such a good relationship with him. So he made me feel really at home on my first visit. Obviously, the academic portion of it was important to me too, because the American schools do offer you money for academics as much as they do for athletics. So part of my scholarship was academia as well. So I think that's important when you're considering, especially depending on the program you want to go into, whether it's a good school for that program. So that's important too.
For sure. And then of course, I mean, you're touring all these different places and you're going to feel, which is so important to do all the research, and presumably your parents are more along driving you down to the States and doing all these sorts of tours. When it came to the actual conversation of picking a school, was it kind of talking through with them about where you're going to go and why you're going to end up, on the southern border of America or 8 hours away or whatever it was? Or is it, it's kind of, well, that you've done your homework and wherever you want to go, you go?
For my parents, they were kind of like, this is your life. We can't make the decision for you. We support you type thing. Obviously, it's going to be tough on them if you are going away from home and you're spending all these years at home with them. It's not something they're used to. But no, my parents were really supportive of where I chose to go. If we went to go on visits and they were like, okay, I'm not comfortable, maybe the city's not great for you to, be around this campus, they'd maybe point that out. But other than that, they were very supportive with my decision.
Awesome.
My parents couldn't wait to get rid of me. So, I mean, they kind of just let me take the reins on that. They were really supportive. I don't think they ever really commented on, I had pretty good experiences at all the schools that I visited. So I don't think there was anything alarming, or it wasn't nothing crazy that I was going to be uncomfortable with. So yeah, it was okay.
And which is interesting too, for you, Alex, is making that decision to transfer after 2 years.
That was a hard decision.
Yeah, well, it sounds like, great relationship with the coach, but now you've got set up, you're partway done your degree, you've probably got a lot of good friends and you're closer to Louisiana, but now you're moving states.
Yeah.
What does that kind of pro-con list look like when you're going through that?
It was a really hard decision. I love my team. It wasn't about my teammates. I mean, you spend 2 years with these girls, you do everything with them, eat, sleep, on the road. It's crazy how much time you spend with your teammates. But I just felt like I wasn't getting enough from the new coach that was selected. And I called my other coach and he was more than happy to have me come back. And I just wanted to see where that would take me. So I jumped on that opportunity. I just want to be on the field. I just want to play. I just want to score goals. So, I mean, when it came down to it, I knew what I wanted to do.
Did your coach come up with that opportunity, or did you come up with that opportunity first?
To transfer?
Yeah.
I was thinking about it. And then I called him and I asked him what he thought about it. And he essentially said, without hesitation, of course, like you always have a spot on any team that I'm coaching. So, I mean, if that's any indication of what our relationship was like from the get-go, we were really well connected. And that's important.
Yeah. And of course, now perhaps tie that off, the soccer decisions made, the coaches are on board. If you feel good about it, did you feel like there was kind of constraints with, moving your degree over to a university, and were there hurdles associated with that?
Most of my credits actually transferred over. So I didn't have, I think there was maybe one class that I had to pick up and take on in like an extra semester. Other than that, the academic part of it wasn't really an issue. Good.
And then that's always going to be a risk too of going to any particular team and having coaching staff move on. Andrew, did you have anything like that where perhaps there was a big change, whether it was coaching staff or otherwise, that
I did
like,
actually,
I didn't sign up for that?
Yeah, I did. So after my freshman year, the initial coach that did scout me, he got let go, and he ended up transferring over to a different school as well. So for me, it was just kind of like we were still his girls he scouted 5 of us and we all stayed. so we took on that new coach. Basically, it was kind of starting from square one, and you have to prove yourself again. And I think that was the beauty of college for me, was proving myself every day and developing as a player with a new coach and a new coaching style. I think that was super challenging, but that made one of the best experiences for me. And just kind of, you're meeting this coach and you don't know him and he doesn't know you. And kind of, if this coach is coming in and you're on a scholarship, he's kind of like, he challenged me and said, well, how do you deserve the scholarship? Like, who are you as a player? And, it's kind of fire, and you just kind of prove yourself, for those 3 years. I worked my butt off, and I have a great relationship now. I stay in contact with all those coaches and that coaching staff, and I go back to alumni weekend almost every year. I go there.
This year we didn't get to go. I was supposed to go in April.
Yeah, I was supposed to go in October, but I still have those great relationships, and I think that's just like the challenge of a new coaching staff and just a new environment with that. It was great.
Yeah, and that's presumably the fun thing too, is there's always hotshot freshmen coming in and to challenge for a spot, and you've got to try and hold on to that. When you had the coaching change, did you find with you and that other group of 5 that were scouted together, did you feel that brought you closer to them or closer to the team, because those were the only individuals that were going through the exact same thing, and you presumably talked about it quite a lot with those teammates?
Yeah, for sure. We were kind of in the same boat at that point. And this new coach actually brought 2 more players from his school. So that was kind of like, a big challenge for us. You're now fighting for a spot and fighting to be noticed by this coach that, that you like, as a player, I had to step up because I've been there for a year and this is his first year, but now he's bringing 2 extra players and you got to earn that spot, right? So definitely super difficult for my first year too. And the 5 of us, we kind of just pushed through and got through it. And then, you just kind of deal with it as it goes pretty much.
It's very interesting to hear you say that the coach brought in new players and they were challenging for spots. And that's exactly what Alex was to a new team.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. You're on the other side.
Exactly. In terms of the day to day, I'm sure different NCAA schools do things differently because of budgets and a whole bunch of different things. But how rigorous was your schedule, either in season or off season, when it comes down to?
I was ready to answer this question.
You were, or you weren't?
I was. Yeah.
Please, yeah.
I remember crying my first week, not to scare anyone, but I just remember it's a challenge. You're 17, leaving home for the first time, and you're working out 3 or 4 times a day, waking up at 5:30 in the morning to go to a weights and then a running session and then a practice and then a practice after lunch and then an evening practice. So I remember being very overwhelmed. Once you are doing it for 2 weeks, it becomes you get into a routine and it's not as like a shock to your body, but definitely a lot of ice baths the first 2.5 weeks I was there.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me, a big thing, it was a culture shock for sure. Like you're thrown into this pool of new environment, new team members. And again, in the States, I find it's just 10 times more competitive, and you just don't know what to expect. And I think that my club team also prepared us for that. We kind of did similar practices and conditioning, to kind of prepare you mentally and physically of what you're going to see in college. A big thing for me is I went there, my freshman year, I actually went there the whole summer. So I left right after high school graduation, and I trained all summer until classes started in September. I also did do summer school there too. And I did it every single year to help break down between my fall and spring semesters. And I think that is crucial. Again, another big advice piece is to do summer classes and just go there in the summer too, if you can, for conditioning to get fit, and to also just break up your studies. I also think that we were provided, at my school at least, a lot of resources to help student athletes with that. I mean, you are almost treated like royalty. Yeah. The opportunities and resources are all there for you. And what I can say is just to take advantage of that. And I think that's kind of what helped me my first year and stuff, just because of the high physical aspect, and also mind and body as well. You're mentally like, you will be in like a mental state of like shock almost. But yeah, that's why you have your teammates and your coaching staff kind of to lean on. And I think that was really big too.
Yeah, and I didn't play varsity at school, but that was one of the big things I can happily vouch for, is taking summer classes to make.
For sure.
Game changer, because it's
Game
just that extra
you
bit
don't
of
have
time
that full load, right?
to breathe and not be stressed. And yeah,
I
highly
remember
recommend.
writing papers on a bus ride back from like the deep south, 8 hours in the middle of the night, writing a paper. So I definitely take those summer classes if you can.
And that's a great point too about going to train in the summer for, you know, the individuals in high school on the call. When, you know, you go away to university and you sign a lease for a house to live in with a bunch of friends or whatever it may be, it's going to be for a year, because that's how the landlord likes to make money. So if you feel there's an opportunity for you to stay and be in a healthy place for those summer months and get well acquainted with the school, that's a great example. Now, in saying that, getting acquainted, I'd love to hover on what Alex was talking about for a minute, of that real feeling of being uncomfortable in that first week. Because it is a culture shock, not just from presumably them handing you a schedule and telling you you're going to get up at 5 and you're going to train twice and here's your team meals and all that sort of stuff, but you're an airplane ride away from home. It's a very different culture just because it's America and different parts of America. What were the things both of you were doing to get not just acquainted with the culture and with your teammates, but for yourselves to stay healthy and mindful and, you know, find kind of that peace between the busyness?
I don't remember having much time in between our preseason training. To be honest, I think I would just lie on the couch in between. There was just so much. But other than that, like at nights, we took opportunities to like hang out with other teammates that we weren't necessarily living on campus with. I know we would drive to the seniors did a really good job. I will say that, as scared as I was of them my first few weeks there. They included us a lot, invited us off campus to their houses. And I think that's really where we started to form like our sort of bonds off the field, got to know each other. We did dinners and stuff like that. So I think got to see the city. We had actually my freshman year, what's called jailbreak, we called it, which was our first night out as a team without the coach knowing, of course, after preseason. So I think that was like a good bonding experience for us too, just to let loose and not be so focused on soccer. All those experiences, I think, were how we just let loose.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Like my freshman year was a little bit more unconventional than my others. My coach was really, he liked to isolate us kind of from the social aspect of like being on campus in preseason. So we stayed in hotels for actually a month every preseason. We were kind of just, his idea behind it was for team bonding, for learning more about your staff and what kind of style of play we play, a lot of film and everything like that in preseason, just kind of getting used to everything. So being in a hotel was kind of nerve-wracking for me, just because I didn't have that experience of the dorm at the beginning in the summer. But like for me, I just stayed connected with my family and friends too. I think a big thing for me was to like debrief after, you know, a tough day and just kind of, you know, share my day with my family and my friends back home. I think having that little piece of home and connecting with everybody every day kind of kept me sane. But with the transition for me, I had also my best friend too that came with me, that played on Burlington with me. So we were able to share a lot of, you know, our problems or like our, you know, like adjustments with each other. So I think that was super helpful too.
Yeah, and that's a great point about having that outlet. Someone once described team dynamics, whether it's sports or business or whatever it was, as a flat tire. And if you didn't fix the flat tire on your journey, then the journey was to be harder and longer and more uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And with you two being in those environments where you're spending hours, your food, your sleep, your training, your games, your everything with these teammates, being able to work out those emotions and talk freely, and you know, you're not going to love them all the time, but you're going to be able to want to talk to them all the time. So tell me a little bit about, or tell the people on the call a little bit about how food was structured, which is probably a bit of a weird question, but was it very structured for like, here's your game day plan and here's, we're all going to eat together, and here's your post-meal kind of setup? What does that all look like from a food perspective?
For me, I think preseason was about 3 weeks long before the school year started. So every single breakfast, lunch, and dinner was had with the team at the food hall, like on campus, with our coach, with our assistant coaches, every single meal for 3 weeks. At the end, our coach did host like just a meal to celebrate finishing preseason and all the hard work. On the road, we usually we would pick a sandwich place, whatever, something healthy. We would stop along the way. Very rarely we were given choices. And a budget. Like sometimes we would get like $20 here, you go pick a place in the plaza kind of thing. Other than that, normally our coach would just pick. He was very strict about eating clean on game days and not eating junk. We weren't allowed to drink pop. If we did, we'd be running sprints. But that, yeah, he was pretty tough on that stuff. If he caught us eating any junk, yeah, we were going to hear it.
Ours was pretty much the same. So before preseason starts, when you like do your check-ins with the coaches and you meet your athletic trainers, your dietitians, your wellness coaches and everything like that, we had a traveling dietitian that actually came to every travel game with us.
Wow.
So basically when we first arrived to campus, we do all these testings. We get our blood work done. We do water tests. We do like weigh-ins before and after every practice. And then we do like DEXA scans where they, measure all your body composition and stuff. So basically our diets were kind of tailored personally to our results with that, just to see what, kind of things that you need more than what somebody else needs. So if somebody, is lacking water or, their water weight's a little too heavy after practice or stuff like that, she would really tailor it to that. So preseason breakfast, lunch, and dinner was with our coaches at our complex, pretty strict. Like we didn't really pick. On the road, we would do like pre-menus a week before we'd leave. So we'd get an option of what kind of sandwich or salad or pasta dish we actually wanted. And we got to pick through there. Mostly we picked it up and then we get along on the road. Then back at hotels, we don't really get the option, but like the food was always great. If we were on campus, every game day, we would have the food catered to us. So we would have food brought to our complex for lunch and dinner, post meal and everything like that. So yeah, I think that a big thing like with nutrition, and I actually was not very like knowledgeable when I was going into college and like what my body needed. So I think having a dietitian and meeting with them weekly for recaps and setting goals, I think that was really a good help too.
Brilliant. And that's pretty incredible to hear that you had a traveling nutritionist, because not just all the travel and the work and all this, but, it's not like you're just playing across Ontario. Presumably there's different, dry heats involved and altitude involved, depending on where you've got to go play your games.
Yeah.
Was travel kind of a good way to get in a lot of your schoolwork when you found that kind of downtime, or was there other chunks allocated, or was it just let's free for all, we'll get it done when we can get it done?
For us, we did have study tables is what we called it. So at least 4 hours a day, we did have to be downstairs in the lobby in our hotel, and our coaches actually sat there and they supervised us at study tables. So that's when we get all our work done, hand in our assignments. Say you had an exam that you couldn't get out of and do it after you got back or before you left. We would also have the option of having a proctor with us. So they would sit in on exams and supervise that with us. So our coach was also, he really did the whole student athlete, not just athlete, take care of your studies first. We did random grade checks too. So our coaches would ask our professors and pull grades and see where we're at. If you are failing, you can't participate in any collegiate games, practices, or anything like that until your grades are actually back up. So you'd be on athletic or academic probation with that. So they were really strict with that too, but I felt like they helped us really balance with, studying and also having that downtime while you're on the road.
Similar experience for me. Workload probably mostly done in hotel rooms or on the bus, as I said. And we also had study hall on campus when we were not on the road. We had to scan our student cards in. Freshman year, I think we had mandatory 4-hour study hall just because it's an adjustment period.
Mhm.
We're learning to be in university and stuff like that. So our coach was very nervous about that. And then as soon as you start to demonstrate that you can kind of handle the student athlete workload, work-life balance kind of thing, you would decrease it. So like every semester, if I demonstrated that I was doing well, I would have like one less study hall hour. I don't think I had any by the time I was like a sophomore. But again, our coach did stress that as well. And if you skip study hall, because my teammates tried and our coach always found out, you would be running and you would not be playing in the next game. So very important.
What I'm hearing is take summer school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Highly
Okay.
recommend.
Now, to recap, quite a lot of structure around food, travel's done and dusted for you, quite a lot of resources. You're trying to find a good network and adjust to the culture. That's a lot, like a rather remarkable life change. How much of that was actually, kind of advertised to you before you made the move to the States? And B, how much, which could you really even understand? Or you're just like, yep, I'm finally going to the NCAA and we'll worry about that when we get there.
That was me for sure. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Yeah, I agree too. I think you'll never know until you actually experience it.
Yeah.
Like I talked to a lot of the girls before I did, head over to Purdue, and I'm like, what do I expect? But like, you don't know, and honestly, until you get there, and experience it yourself.
Yeah, fair enough. And a quick reminder to everyone on the call, please feel free to message me if you've got a question, and we'll make sure we get it in before the end of the evening. Now, anyway, so you've been in school for a few years now. You're probably coming to that decision of, am I going to keep playing, or is college going to be kind of the last hurdle, or what is that next step? Because you're in there for 4 or 5 years. Andrea, we'll come to you later because you made that step over to Europe. But Alex, what did that look like for you, and how are you making that decision about soccer in your life?
I think it was a kind of a sad decision for me and a little bit difficult. And I hope that it's starting to change. But personally at the time, I just wasn't sure if soccer was going to bring me to this next place that I wanted to be in my life. And I just didn't know how far that was going to take me. And I'm not sure that I was prepared to take that risk. So I think at that point, I was just like, there's other things that I want to do. I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world in different ways. And I wanted to take on a new challenge that ended up becoming a lawyer. So, I mean, that was just how I felt at that time. I do hope young people now kind of have a different experience than I had. And yeah, that's really it.
But you would say it was a really clear understanding of what you wanted more in your life than from soccer, and then it was deciding if soccer played a role in all of that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I just wanted like a bigger career, something that, it was more about the lifestyle, not about me leaving soccer. Of course, I've continued to play in some capacity, but I just wanted a little bit more, a different experience. And unfortunately, I stopped playing at that point, which was a hard decision to make, but nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. I've got a couple of questions here. Maya, did you want to jump on and ask your question? And then we'll come to Ali afterwards.
Yes, I was going to ask, how's the money side of going into university?
In terms of like the cost, Maya, is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah.
Are you referring to like tuition and like that kind of money style?
Yeah.
Yep. So basically, like, it depends on the college that you are looking at. Some colleges can offer you like a full ride scholarship, which would cover your academics, your athletics, and everything in between. So your books, your room and board, everything like that would be included. Some colleges don't do full rides and could do 50%, 20%, pretty much whatever the coaches actually have in the budget to offer you. For me, I think for a semester, tuition for us was, I think, 45 grand. It just depends, I guess, where in university you are going. I was fortunate enough to get that full ride scholarship, so I was thankful, to kind of live up to that and that opportunity. And that's a big thing I noticed with scholarships. If you do have one, it's not just somebody giving you money to go play. It's something that you do earn, and it's something to be, very mindful of and like proud of too. So I think that's really to keep in mind too, if you're looking to do that.
Very well said. Ali, you've got a question. Did you want to jump in?
Sure. My question was, is there anything that you wish you could have done to better prepare for the switch to university before you went?
Alex, you can take this one.
I'm trying to think. I think, well, Andrea, I guess you went for the summer before and you were training, and I stayed home, and I didn't really know what kind of level I would be training at. So I think if I could go back and do it all again, I probably would have taken my summer workout schedule a little bit more seriously, and run a lot, because as much as you think you're game fit, you will be running a fitness test. So I think that's what I wish I could have done differently.
I agree. I think I like to say I went in unfit. I knew that, that's the way it is for everybody who comes in. I was fortunate to go in the summer and get that kind of first look of what I would be kind of experiencing, and shock to my body, and get all my aches and pains out before preseason. But I do wish, while I was here and in high school too, I was really working a little harder.
Yeah, definitely.
And then actually on that level of fitness, Emerson, do you want to jump in?
Sure. I was just wondering, how many times a week do you train, by yourself?
When we were preparing to go, I think I used to personally train every day with someone one-on-one, as weights and running and stuff like that, getting stronger. And then obviously I was still playing competitive soccer. So, that was games once or twice a week, and sometimes on weekends. And, but again, could have ran a little more.
Yeah. Yeah. Before I went to, go there in the summer, our strength coach actually sent us a package of what to do at home, of home workouts. So I kind of just did that every day, or by the days of the calendar of that they provided for us, just to get a feel. So that's, pretty much almost every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then one last question from Olivia, and then we'll loop back into post-college soccer. Olivia, do you want to unmute yourself?
Sure. I was wondering if when you were younger, you thought that you'd be at the level of soccer that you are at today?
I hoped to. Yeah, I did. Yes. That was my goal. So, yeah.
I would agree.
Speaking of that goal setting and the levels you want to be. So, Andrea, you were saying that you're in college, you're competing, you're able to hold down your spot. At what point are you deciding you want to go play pro? And then was the Czech Republic on the list of places to visit, or that was where the opportunity came up? How did that come about?
So I didn't actually decide to go play pro or to continue until the end of my junior year. My junior year was my peak, and I was just I was at peak fitness, peak performance, and I was maybe I could make a life out of this. So I kind of thought of it. Come my senior year, that's when I did start talking to agents and networking myself to see my options. Unfortunately, I did opt out of the draft for the NWSL, and I decided to take the Europe route. So I hired an agent, and basically we went through a bunch of teams and opportunities that, they reached out to him and to see if I can come out. That's when I actually did have a highlight video and tape. And then I was sending them out, or he was sending them out to teams. I chose Czech Republic. It was, I think, my second option or third. But that's just kind of where I wanted to start first to see, get a glimpse of what Europe soccer was like. And I will say it was completely 360 from US soccer. It's completely different, the style of play, kind of the intensity even of, fitness or being game fit and actually physically fit. It's very different. I would define Europe soccer for me, at least where I was, it was very laxed, actually very relaxed. And you gain your fitness strictly like just from games. I don't think they believed in actual conditioning. But yeah, it was like, that was a big culture shock for me, very different. Because I was like, you practice at 6 o'clock, people are rolling up at like 6, like just after 6, and I'm there at like 4:45. I'm like ready to go, like I'm doing my pre-practice, warm up, but definitely something I needed to adjust to. But again, an overall great experience. And then push came to shove at the end. I actually did not renew my contract for another season after that. And then I came home and I was speaking with my agent, and he had a place on Gold Coast in Australia for me. And then COVID hit. So after everything happened and I was kind of finalizing and talking with a few coaches, I just decided to, it was just going to be a process and something that for stability and, for the future of, for me and my career, it was just best to kind of, step down and, kind of start an actual career and, make money and, start planning for a bigger future for myself. And that was kind of the best decision, I think, for me at that time was, but yeah.
And just for clarity, because I forget too, you're saying you're making that decision as a junior. Is that your third year?
Oh, my third year.
Yeah.
And just my third year.
Third year, right.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And yeah, and to that point, I mean, the Czech Republic, who doesn't want to go live on a beach in Australia? But
Czech Republic was still beautiful, like hands down. And, it's in the middle of everywhere where you can, you can go to Vienna, Budapest, and it's just a train ride away. Everything's so close. I did get a lot of opportunity to travel and meet people and stuff like that. So that was great. Yeah, it was beautiful.
And a big language barrier too, I'm assuming.
Yes. So
our
coaches actually did not know English. Yeah. Our coaches did not know English, and we had like a handful of girls on the team that did speak a little bit of broken English, so they translated for us. Lucky for me, my second language is Croatian, so it's kind of similar to some words. So I was able to pick up on it a little bit easier. But yeah, it was definitely a culture shock for me.
Right, gotcha. Maya, you want to jump back in there with a question?
Yes. So from what you saw, what were some main differences from the women's soccer team compared to the male soccer?
In Europe?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, a lot of the main differences was, like, for me, I find that like our men's team was kind of a little bit more high intensity and not more serious, but they were higher intensity. Whereas for us, it was kind of just more relaxed, and they did have game plans and good game day routines, but I would definitely say like we would scrimmage with a lot of the guys teams there that were also training, and they were very much more competitive and definitely more intense. I'd say between our trainings, the guys did more like game fitness, and so did we, but we also did a lot of film. We did a lot of studying film, which was kind of the same as college, but not as much as I did in Europe as well.
Very cool. Now linking it back, since all that's happened, now there's League One Ontario, which is very quickly growing. The women's team in Hamilton took off before the men's, which did very well. How do we think that pathway is going to be able to change or perhaps make life easier for people on the call who want to take this route to the NCAA or abroad rather?
I think it's just all like a matter of exposure and like that opportunity that you do have. I say go for it and like take it. Use what you have and the resources that you do have, especially with these new leagues and women's sports and soccer itself is growing. And I think that it's on a positive high right now, that it's something that you can showcase yourself and kind of use to your advantage when you are looking at schools. I think a big thing like between Canada and US is is having that knowledge of like what to do and things to do, preparing yourself for college, like reaching out to coaches, emailing them, sending your videos in. I think that needs to be a little bit also more focused on too, if you want to play at the collegiate level too.
I'll do one more last call for questions because I know we're running out of time, but I'll throw my last one at the both of you. So very long-standing careers in soccer, provincially and then internationally. Talked a lot about preparedness and adaptability and all these sorts of things. Is there one or two particular things that you said, yeah, this is something that was a thread throughout my career and it gave me the ability to stay within soccer longer? Was there a particular trait or just a particular attitude you brought throughout your career that made you able to stay in the game for so long?
I think for me anyways, I knew I loved competing. I loved working hard. And I can say now, like, I miss it so much. I miss the camaraderie. I miss my teammates. So I think that the atmosphere and just having a purpose and being on a team and being part of something was what kept me going, what kept me in it. And I enjoyed every single second of it, even when I was having bad days. So yeah, I think that's what kept me going.
I agree. I think mine was, I didn't necessarily ever have an end goal. It was kind of, I had another goal after another. And just, I guess, my passion for the sport and like the experiences that I did go through and success that I, had out of college and high school and club. I mean, it's all, it all happens for a reason. And it's something that I chose to do and I just followed it. And I think that even post soccer, like, of course I miss it. And, I'd love to get back into it, but any way that I can contribute to the community or help anybody that is going to the next steps, I'd love to do that and see the development of players, of younger players, girls, boys. I just love to see it. So just follow your dreams.
I think also outside of soccer, even it's taught me a lot of just how to like have relationships with people, how to like when to back down, when to keep pushing, I think it's just taught me a lot about the world and getting to know people and especially leaving home, right? So it was just life experiences as well outside of soccer, which made me grow as a person.
Mm-hmm. You do learn a lot about yourself and what you're capable of.
Well, that's brilliant. I don't have any other last questions if anyone wants to get them in, but I think that's it from the group. Thank you both for making the time tonight. This was, I think, a really brilliant conversation. I really enjoyed it, and hopefully there were some good learnings for everyone else on the call. Of course, if everyone wants any further questions, feel free to reach out to me and I can get the questions over to our guests. The video is going to be up on YouTube afterwards as well, but really, really appreciate you both making the time. It was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you so much. Hope we answered